Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Look, Bumble knows you're exhausted by dating. All the, must not take yourself too seriously, and 6'1" since that matters, and what do I even say other than, hey? Well, that's why they're introducing an all-new Bumble, with exciting features to make compatibility easier, starting the chat better, and dating safer. They've changed, so you don't have to. Download the new Bumble now.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Welcome back to the Minefield podcast from Anfield Index Pro. As always, I am your host, Alan O'Donoghue, and I'm joined by my partner in crime, Dr. Andrew Vincent. Andrew, how are you doing today?
I'm confused today, Al, because I'm not sure that Liverpool Football Club continues to exist, because we were promised a new manager. We had Richard Hughes coming in, sporting director, a new structure. I haven't seen any of these people. They haven't said anything. They haven't announced themselves. So I'm not sure that any of this is continuing into next season. So I don't know. Now that's where I'm at, is that something needs to happen.
So LFC, if you're listening, please do something to show Andrew that you still exist, because the man is a shell of the man that I knew before when we spoke the last time. So you've broken him. You've broken the psychologist. There you go.
I think I've seen more news about assistant coaches who aren't coming, whether it's the goalie coach or it's the person that can't get the work permits. Like, I know more about who's not going to be there than I know about who's going to be there. Doesn't.
It's going to be interesting when something does happen, because you'll be able to contain yourself.
I know. It's going to be very exciting. We do have one of the worst jerseys I've ever seen in my life all picked out for next year. Maybe that's why no one's coming back. I saw the collar for that kit and they were just like, forget it.
Yeah. Not wearing that shit.
Yeah.
Fucking chance. But before we get into talking about next season and our new manager, our new structure, we do need to tuck in and put to bed Jurgen Klopp and the Jurgen Klopp era at Liverpool. And we want to take it, obviously, from a slightly different perspective to a lot of the other podcasts on Anfield Index Pro. And the big thing for us has always been the culture that Jurgen created within the club. And when we talk about culture, we're not just talking about, galvanizing the players, but we're talking about the fans, we're talking about the staff, the non-playing staff, we're talking about the media, we're talking about the city, we're talking about the country, and the impact he made on English football, European football, in his time as the head coach or manager of Liverpool. And I suppose, I remember, Andrew, one of our first podcasts, we did talk about, and everyone's referenced it, but the acknowledgement of the fans in the West Brom game. And we'll get to that. But I want to even go back further to Jurgen's press conference and proclaiming himself as the normal one. Like, to me, that was the very first sign of him saying, this is different. What we're heading into is different. And then talking about looking at winning a championship in 4 years. Like, that was different. But he was coming with a pedigree of having disrupted the establishment in Germany and to a lesser extent with Mainz. And I think there was a cultural shift nearly straight away from the off. Was that your reading of it? And in hindsight, obviously looking back, do you think that was a pivotal moment?
Yes, a pivotal moment, but also I think fell at a time and landed at a time where there was just so much desire for significant change. Like, I think as fans, all of us really wanted to feel something really different. And like, you know, that would have come at a stage for me where, like, because of how games were broadcast in the United States and when I could watch and couldn't watch and when I had access to certain channels, like that like the end of the Hodgson era, the start of the Rodgers era was like the first time I was able to really start watching super regularly and see all the time rather than just sort of follow the team. That was obviously a really tricky period. Other than, you know, the 2013-14 season with Suarez and Sturridge and like that really wild ride, it was just kind of hard times, you know, like we missed out on Clint Dempsey, which even as an American, you know, is like, that's tough times. And so like, I think there was so much readiness for us as fans to feel like, hey, there's a new chapter here, or there's something we can really stand on. I mean, I remember Rodgers' Champions League campaign and him playing the reserve basically against Real Madrid and losing, I think, or drawing to Ludo Goretz. And just like, you know, it went from this 13-14 season that felt like, hey, like we're really doing something here, just kind of right back into something that was bad. And then, you know, the year after that, the year when Rodgers was like, that was just watching, that was so stale, just so stale. And so I think seeing someone come in, like Rodgers also never felt like a figure that we really wanted to believe in, or that I really like. I never was super connected with Brendan Rodgers as the person. It's whether it's the Being Liverpool documentary and the envelopes or the things like that. Like a lot of players who have played for him seem to have positive things to say, but like, I don't know, like it just wasn't a person we could get behind. And so I think seeing Jurgen Klopp show up and be like, hey, I'm the normal one, and be simultaneously so likable, fun, but also ambitious, but also kind of giving fans a kick in the butt and saying, here's what we need from you too. You know, was a big change. I think everyone was ready for that. I think that set the tone for a group of people who wanted a different culture. It was someone who showed us, here's what that culture should look like, or could look like, or here's what we need from you.
And I think, it was that galvanizing of everyone that he had. And look, we're not going to get into the specifics of, the players that came in weren't always to do with him. It's not about that. It's about, what he created. And we'll assume or make the assumption that there was lots of different elements and lots of different people who helped that be the case throughout the club and the fans as well. So that's there, and we know that. But we're talking about Jurgen the man, and I think what was really interesting for me, I was one of those people that straight away went, we're winning the league. I just was so happy because I never thought that we would be able to attract that level of manager ever again. And that to me was, it was like, when we signed Suarez, when we signed Torres, I didn't think we would ever sign Torres because he was top quality, and we weren't that type of club. We didn't sign those type of players. So when we signed Torres, I was like, holy shit, this is massive. Less so with Suarez because he was more of an unknown package. I'd watched him in the Copa America and been blown away by him. And, but again, I don't think he had the same exposure that, say, Torres had. And then, like, with our managers, it was, like, even when Kenny came back, I was happy, but when Kenny came back, for me, it was more like, okay, this is my old car that I know is reliable, but it's not going to bring me to challenge for the heights. Let's not even talk about Hodgson. And I was just like, what was he doing here? And then Brendan Rodgers, again, I was like, what's all this about? And like you said, I couldn't really get behind it. And then this man comes in with this mystique, but also the pedigree to back up that mystique. And I think in that first season, what he did was he showed, yes, we didn't win the league, but he showed a level of development on the pitch that we hadn't seen since the 13-14 season. And what amazed me then was it was pretty much the same players that Rodgers had. So that was really significant.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
In terms of, I could see the progress straight away, even though I was disappointed we didn't win the league. But then we move into the likes of the acknowledging the fans at West Brom, or even just down to as simple as, Mane jumping on his back, celebrating his first goal against Arsenal. And I was like, it just felt like there was something building here and something different. And the fans seemed to buy into it straight away. And I think that was a really, really important element too, because it always, for a long time, it felt like there was a separation between the fans, the owners, and then the club. And while the fans loved the club, it just felt like they were pushed to the side, whereas Jurgen kind of almost encouraged the incorporation and named it nearly as well.
Yeah, I think, when you talk about culture or psychology, there's always like attention is an important role. Like, what are you attending to and what are you not attending to? What are you foregrounding? What are you backgrounding? And what are the loops and the patterns that creates? And I think, like, as a group of fans, like, we'd gotten in some loops of just being unhappy and feeling a little bit helpless about.
The delicious ice-cold taste of Dr. Pepper has a lasting effect on people. Lindsay from Sacramento said,
Pro tip, 40 degrees is the perfect temperature for an ice-cold Dr. Pepper.
why is 40 degrees the perfect temperature for Dr. Pepper? We brought in Sue from Duluth, Minnesota to tell us.
Oh, yeah, I know a thing or two about cold. Oh, that right there is the perfect kind of ice cold for Dr. Pepper. I'd share that with my friend Nancy. She likes Dr. Pepper, too, you know. My coldest...
All right, that'll be all, Sue. Having a perfect temperature for your Dr. Pepper? It's a Pepper thing. Inspired by real fan posts.
And, that comes with, like, a lot of frustration and complaining. And I think Jurgen did a good job of just saying, and by reinforcing and also calling out when those loops were playing out in a way that was damaging to the whole, right? Of being able to say, like, when you're leaving ahead of time, like when you're leaving early, or when your energy turns around, or you're frustrated and all we hear is that frustration, that matters. And I think that's a change, because previously it just sort of seems like otherwise that doesn't matter, and that's sometimes, as a fan, where a behavior gets extreme, it's often where people feel helpless and out of control. It's like, well, if we don't get this player in, I'm not buying the kit. And it's like, that doesn't matter to anybody, right? But like, we want to feel like we matter as fans. And so I think for Jurgen, he highlights, like, you do. And here's what we need from you. But if you're going to matter, you're also responsible for taking accountability for how you interact. And I think, like, that ends up being received warmly, although with some bumps and bruises at times, or some people maybe saying, he can't tell us how to be fans or whatever. But actually, I think what happens there is an acknowledgement that you matter, what you do can bring us up. But you also then can't behave in ways that bring us down, or don't get to just behave in ways that bring us down. And I think then he also does a really good job directing us to what he cares about and what he's paying attention to as part of his process. Is like fighting until the end, working really hard, like, having, what are the other things that Klopp cares about, right? Like celebrating together, having these moments where we can have fun together. And like the Mane thing and jumping on his back with that goal at Arsenal, or, Adam Lallana breaking his glasses, or the parades, or all of these different things, like having fun together and having a good time together and trying really hard to do something together. That's what he's constantly directing us towards, and creating a culture of celebrating that and paying attention to that. And the things that don't matter as much are, I don't know, he certainly directs us away from the transfers and the money and saying this isn't the important part, just who we bring in isn't important. Like when you see a lot of managers complain about players all the time, part of what they're saying is, well, the staff that we have, that's what matters. So that's what you should pay attention to as well, like as fans. I think for him, obviously he cared about who he had there. But I think for him, he directs the attention towards how do we support and get the best out of the group we have? This is who we have. And so, like, let's make this enough. Now let's go try our best to win something. And, so I think that's a big shift that he makes. And he's very forceful on that and very stubborn about how he sees what's important and what's not important. And I think that is both one of his great strengths, is that he can stand in front of a new club, which is one of like a really established club with people who think a certain way. And he can stand up there and he can say, this is what's important and this isn't. And I stand by that. And I expect you to stand by it too. And that just happened to fit really nicely with the group of people he was leading.
And that's not an easy thing to do, especially with fans. Like, not many managers would get away with calling out the fans, but it's the way he delivered that, which is the real, I suppose, psychological brilliance that he has. The first things first, he acknowledges them. You are important. This is what we are going to do or try to do. So he acknowledges the fans. He accepts the responsibility that he and the players have to deliver. And then he says, and this is the expectation of you. And that then feeds back into the importance of the fans. So it wasn't you got to stop fucking booing or stop leaving early. He didn't say that. And if you think about it, that is wonderful psychology. You're going to get,
right. He didn't say, "Fuck you all for leaving." He said, "I felt very alone in that moment," which is incredibly intentional. One, because the anthem of "You'll Never Walk Alone," right? And this is something that we're all sort of saying to each other, is that like we've got each other's backs as part of being Liverpool, is "You'll never walk alone." So of course he chose that word very intentionally. But he also described his experience on the pitch. He didn't focus on, here's what you all did wrong. He said, "I felt very alone in that moment."
And nobody can take away his emotion. Now, fans can go, "No, you didn't," but it means nothing. So he was vulnerable. He showed that vulnerability, but he showed empathy towards the fans and understanding that, yes, it's okay for you to be disappointed with the results on the pitch. And as it played out, the importance of those last 10, 15 minutes, including injury time, over the course of his Liverpool career was so important. Like that was the difference maker in a lot of games. And it was phenomenal to see the fans pick it up and raise the roof for those last 10, 15 minutes, the substitutes coming on. And, like we started to hear more songs being sung in those last 10, 15 minutes that, come on, we can help you. We can help you drive on. So they bought into it. And that comes down to that vulnerability that he showed, but the accountability that he expected from others as well as himself. That's just absolutely phenomenal psychology. Like how many people can get 60,000 people to buy into it, what he's saying?
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
It really is. And I mean, even, part of it's just very genuine, right? Like, it's not an act. It's like when he says, like, "I'm the normal one," like, I think he has a stunning lack of awareness around how not normal he is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I actually don't think he always gets it. And I think you see it, to me, that was so plain in his exit ceremonies. Like, he just was not prepared to have these huge, important moments of feeling like, it was just kind of like he was like, "Yeah, I'm leaving. And like, this has meant a lot. But also, like, why are you handing me this microphone in the middle of this stadium? Like, I don't really know what to say." I'm not even sure he knew he was going to be saying some big goodbye in the middle of the stadium. Like, it didn't really seem like it, And I think you contrast that with someone like Ferguson, who I think wants that microphone in that moment, like, sees himself as special. And look, he is. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Like, sees himself as special. And so, like, takes, I think for Klopp, when he says he's the normal one, like, I think that's really just where he sees himself. And so, that's not to say he's not capable of and willing to assert his authority or use his power. Like, clearly he is too. But I think, he just sees himself as a really normal person. So he has that sort of self-deprecating quality that's really nice and really approachable. And so it fits well with what I understand to be the culture of Liverpool as a city, and the culture of Liverpool fans is something that is like comfortable and warm and self-deprecating and quick to laugh and quick to poke fun. And, like that's definitely a quality he has. Like, not every manager can walk in at the beginning of a press conference and actually make funny little jokes with all the press corps or whatever. Not that he did that the whole time. There's obviously an extended period where that was not how he entered those.
Yeah. And I do think, though, even if you look back at the celebrations that we've had with them, he just looks like a fan who happened to get on the bus or a fan who happened to get into the stadium to, jump around with the lads.
Yeah. It's the ball cap and the glasses, right? Yeah. And it's just, he's just some guy, and I think what's interesting is that obviously any club in the world would take him as their manager now. But I think in a weird way, like at different moments, like if you showed up at Real Madrid and said you're the normal one, like, well, that doesn't really work. You can't go to Barcelona or PSG or Manchester United or Bayern. And like, even if those are all places that wanted him or would have wanted him or definitely would want him now, like, I don't think you go there as the normal one with that self-deprecating way. I don't think people connect with that exactly the same, because I think that they demand a level of excellence that Klopp can certainly attain, but he's not going to say, like, he's not the person who's like, we're going to dominate everyone and win trophies every year. We're going to work our hardest and do our best and fight for what we can. I think that's both a huge strength of him collecting that buy-in from Liverpool supporters initially, but also, starts to bump into some of the weakness or starts to bump into some of the areas where weakness is maybe a strong word, but I think it starts to bump into some of his limitations for sure later.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think, so talking about the fans, and once you start to win trophies, and he won big trophies very quickly, relatively, and like the fans are bought in then, and the style of football definitely helped. Then if we look at the stories that have come out over the number of years of how important everybody was in the staff, how important the people who swept the floors, people who made the tea, they were just as important. And I believe he was really, really emphatic in making sure that the players knew how important everybody else was. And that is important as well, because in any organization, if you walk around with an air of, I'm the most important person here and I get paid the most, that filters down to the people who don't earn the most, who earn the least, and they feel less than. So they don't feel as if they're contributing as much, or they don't feel as committed to the process of this organization as much. And for Klopp to be able to even that playing field to enough of an extent, again, is such a powerful and important element. And I think, like, whatever about the fans, whatever about the players, whatever about the media with Arne Slot coming in, I think that is one of the key elements that needs to be kept going in order for him to be a success within the club. Now, I might be totally wrong, but we've moved away from the Alex Ferguson, kicking a boot at a player and splitting their eye open type of world. We don't live in that world anymore. It's not acceptable. And for these extended staff and non-playing staff, they're going to be looking to see, well, is Arne going to know my name? Because just because you get a new head coach doesn't mean the culture has to shift. Now, it will, it's probably inevitable, but it doesn't have to change completely where that then is broken. That link is broken.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important piece in what Klopp did and what he built over the 9 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And it's also, it's a place where I have some trouble reconciling different reports, because by all accounts, I remember especially early on, such a focus on that, right? And different stories that had a strong focus on that. And then I also can definitely, think of reports about him. Not everyone feels the love in the same way, and there's definitely some capacity for certain people. It seems like the playing staff, definitely he tries to build that bond with, It seems like other members of the staff, different spots, definitely, but it also seems like there's places within his staff where people certainly don't feel the love, or they get the cold shoulder, or he can be very difficult to work with too. I think that's anyone, right? And anyone in a position of power, to some extent, there's going to be people who maybe don't mesh well with that or whatever. But like, I think that's something that's always been kind of hard to navigate. Being a big fan of Klopp is like, on the one hand, you have this person who seems very warm, who cares about people, clearly cares about how he treats people, but also will be publicly very rude to the media. And that was always something that it was just like, he crossed some lines there, I think, from time to time. And maybe made up for that behind closed doors, right? But like, yeah, like I agree with your point in the spirit of your point. And like, I think I also want to not risk being too Pollyanna about him as this super warm uniter of everyone, because I think that was symbolically who he was and a part of who he was. And I'm sure that there's plenty of reality to that. And I think there's also plenty of reality to a more difficult side of him, which I think we saw for a couple of years too.
And which I think highlights that he's human.
Yeah.
Like, and I think what from listening to even some of the other podcasts on Anfield Index Pro around Klopp leaving, like, I don't think I've heard any commentary where it's been, it was perfect, he was perfect, there was no problems, and now everything is gone. You know, I think most people would be fairly balanced in their observations of, you know, there was, of course there was issues. Like, you can't be part of an organisation and be a major driving force within that organisation and not have people not like you. And where you won't handle situations badly. It just will happen because you're a human being. And that's just the way it is. But I think overall, if we look at the culture, it's definitely, it from the outside looking in, it appeared to be one of support and an acknowledgement of each individual.
Yeah,
no,
absolutely. And I 100% agree with your point that, like, I don't think part of being the normal one, like with Klopp, he like wasn't afraid to be human or have some of those flaws, or kind of like double down on like, this is how I do it. And sometimes that might work out and sometimes it's not going to. But like, I'm not going to circle back and fix everything. Yeah.
And that's probably what allowed him to be successful. And again, probably was part of the challenge as well. And if we look at the success that he had on the pitch, that was really important. But more recently, if we look at, now, again, I don't know how much of bringing everyone under the one roof was his decision or, you know, a collective decision or whatever. But I think that was really important as well for the academy to be able to see and get to know the teammates, and for him to be able to see the academy and let those kids see Jurgen's watching, Jurgen's seeing, or, you know, we're just around the corner. That again brought a sense of togetherness, I think, that was really important. And we start to see that then with the young players who've made the breakthrough or moved on to pastures new but are building careers for themselves as well. I think that's another element of the culture that he helped to foster and create, that there's a potential for significant legacy to live on there, which I think is fantastic. And one of the things that I would think he's probably most proud of.
I think the spirit of what you're saying is really true. And like that culture of everyone matters. Like it, like I do, like I think there's like the more prickly moments of his that I like react to for sure. But yeah, and I think having the academy there in one building, like without a shadow of a doubt, the treatment of young players as being important and fostering that development and finding that balance between giving them opportunities to shine, but also protecting them and not demanding too much too soon. And really like helping fans with that, I think is something he did a really excellent job of. I think he also gave players a lot of space to be human and have their flaws, and like for players to have bad seasons and not totally get rid of them after having a tough season. And, sometimes using sometimes of the frustration of fans, flawed players, to get something out of them that they did have, even if they were limited in these other ways.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
Sports Social Podcast Network.